The war was won. As the company rode toward the capital, General Marcus said nothing. His face a mask of stone carved from the same granite as the western mountains they were leaving behind. His son, Alex, rode beside him, oblivious. Alex wondered if they would return to the expanse. His father seemed agitated, a stark contrast to the triumphant mood that should have accompanied their victory. Sergeant Miles, a man whose face was a roadmap of old battles, pulled his horse alongside Alex's. He told the boy to stop daydreaming. A pang of guilt hit Alex, and he sheepishly ran a hand through his hair. His memory was a fractured thing since the fall, a collection of broken pieces, but one shard remained clear. A friend in the capital he was meant to see again. Miles clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder, reminding him it was his own damn fault for being reckless. He then ruffled Alex's hair with a rough affection, telling him to have his fun. No one knew if they'd make it out of this homecoming alive. The words shocked Alex. He looked ahead at his father's rigid back. General Marcus had heard everything. He spoke without turning, his voice low and gravelly. It meant that his command was likely to be stripped away, and their life on the frontier was over. Alex couldn't believe it. He demanded to know on what grounds. It felt like a betrayal after everything they had sacrificed. His father glanced back at him with an expression that pitted his naivete. He told his son to prepare to die. For the rest of the journey, a knot of anxiety tightened in Alex's stomach. His constant worrying wore on his father's patience. The general grumbled that he should have left Alex locked up at the fort. The fall had made an already simple boy even simpler. When he asked if Alex was truly that afraid of death, Alex's pride flared. He sat up straighter in his saddle and declared that if he were to die, it would be on the battlefield. General Marcus sighed, one of many on that long road back. He muttered a quiet hope that his old flame might spare them a quick death. Alex was stunned. He asked who this powerful woman was and suggested his father should rekindle the romance immediately. Then a thought struck him. He failed to see the connection between the king wanting them dead and his father's past lover. The general simply pointed a finger first at Alex, then at himself, explaining that the threat was to both of them. He told his son to figure it out for himself. At the victory banquet in the Citadel's Grand Hall, General Marcus stared intently at a point across the room. Alex followed his gaze and saw the king, Theodore. A chill went down his spine. He leaned close to his father, whispering his frantic plan. He reasoned that a group of hardened soldiers shouldn't just wait for the axe to fall. If things went sour, Alex would seize the king while his father escaped with their men. They could regroup outside the city walls. The general slammed his crystal tumbler down on the table with a resounding crack, his patience finally snapping. He hissed at his son, questioning his sanity and ordering him to behave. Still, his eyes never left the king. He then added that, based on his observations, they might just survive the night. Relieved at the news that he wouldn't have to die, Alex stopped trying to unravel the political complexities and sat up straight. Across the hall, an impossibly handsome man raised his glass to him. Alex looked around, confused, before cautiously lifting his own in return. Just as he set it down, the king ordered attendants to bring forth a chest of gold bullion. A young captain was rewarded for his valor. Alex watched, a little envious of the man who was his own age, his mouth watering at the sight of the gold. Then, the king's voice boomed his name, Alex Cromwell. He nearly jumped out of his skin. The king declared that for his service in the expanse, he was to be rewarded. The prince, Julian, was a fine young man. He would be Alex's. The king then looked to the general, announcing that his father's greatest service was siring him, and so the king's own greatest prize was now a gift to the general. Alex was dumbfounded. Why did he get a prince instead of gold? Before he could process it, his father was already on one knee in the center of the hall, thanking His Majesty for the grace. Alex could only wonder where his gold had gone. That evening, Julian was in his bed. Alex froze in the doorway of his chambers at the general's townhouse, staring at the figure lounging on his sheets. The prince rose and walked toward him, his movements fluid and deliberate. He asked if Alex found him so terrifying. Julian was taller than him by half a head, yet he didn't feel menacing. Alex gave a tentative nod, his mind racing, wondering if he was supposed to kneel. Julian explained that since Alex disliked the Citadel's formalities, he had come to the townhouse instead. A subtle touch grazed his abdomen, and Alex's back went ramrod straight. He started to address him as Your Highness, but a flicker of displeasure in Julian's eyes stopped him. Alex was about to declare that he wasn't interested in men, but then he looked at Julian's face and the words died in his throat. He found himself being pushed back onto the bed. It was only when Julian began to remove his tunic that Alex's voice returned. He pleaded with him to stop, turning his head away, his eyes landing on the stark white of Julian's chest. He stammered that they were strangers, that he wasn't attracted to men. Julian looked down at him with a complex expression, then glanced lower. He asked if Alex was certain. Alex followed his gaze and saw the undeniable evidence of his own arousal. He quickly pulled the duvet over himself, telling Julian to ignore it. Deciding it was too complicated to analyze why he was reacting this way to a man, he did what he always did when confused. He opted for sleep. He tugged Julian down beside him, insisting they should just rest. Julian, however, persisted, his hand tracing a path from Alex's chest downward. A shudder ran through Alex, a sensation that felt like floating. His hands, acting of their own accord, came to rest on Julian's forearms. The townhouse had no staff. The silent attendants outside had arrived with Julian. The next morning, Alex lay propped on his elbows, watching with fascination as they dressed the prince. The playful intimacy of the night was gone. This was Julian, the crown prince, his expression cool and authoritative. Alex was mesmerized. Julian seemed to sense his stare and turned, a slight smile playing on his lips. He asked what Alex was looking at, calling him a fool. The familiar feeling from the night before sent a strange flutter through Alex's chest. He changed the subject, asking why his father hadn't returned. Julian's expression was calm as he replied that Alex would find out in due time. After the previous night, a peculiar notion had taken root in Alex's mind. The prince was his. It was therefore his duty to listen to him. He stopped fretting about his absent father and quickly got ready. He announced he wanted to explore the city and asked if Julian would join him. An aide stepped forward to object, but Julian simply raised a hand, dismissing them. He turned to Alex and agreed. Overjoyed, Alex devoured a breakfast sandwich in 3 bites. Julian watched him with an amused, exasperated look. As they walked through the bustling avenues, Alex gawked at everything, marveling at the sheer scale of the capital. Julian laughed, remarking that Alex would probably hate living in the Citadel even more now. Alex just shrugged, replying honestly that he would go wherever his father told him to. Just then, a heavy cargo vehicle lost control, careening down the street. People screamed and scattered. In the chaos, the vehicle swerved directly toward Julian. Alex shouted, his heart seizing. Without thinking, he lunged, pulling Julian out of the path of destruction. In the same instant, Julian cried out of his own. A sharp, searing pain exploded in Alex's right shoulder. A crossbow bolt had pierced straight through it. If not for his quick action, they would have been skewered together. He gasped, looking back toward a second-story window of a nearby tavern. A flash of dark cloth disappeared from view. Julian's face was a thunderhead of fury. He commanded his guards, who had just arrived, to take the assassin alive. He turned back to Alex, his brow furrowed with deep concern, and insisted on returning to the citadel to see a physician. Alex, trying to mask the throbbing pain, forced a weak smile. He assured Julian it was a minor wound and he'd be fine. Julian's voice trembled slightly as he said he knew Alex was the toughest. He reached out as if to touch the wound but stopped, his hand hovering in the air before gently taking Alex's wrist. He whispered that Alex had saved him again. Alex felt a flicker of confusion, about to ask what he meant by again, when the world began to spin. Julian's face blurred into 3 identical images. Alex tried to say the bolt was poisoned, but before he could form the words, everything went black. He awoke to a dull ache in his shoulder and the sight of Julian's profile. The prince was sitting by his bed. Julian expressed his relief that Alex was finally awake. Alex tried to sit up, but the movement sent a wave of agony through his shoulder, and he fell back against the pillows. Julian firmly told him not to move, explaining the injury was severe. He held a spoonful of dark, bitter medicine to Alex's lips. Alex turned his head away, grimacing, and complained that sipping it would be too bitter. Suddenly, his father's voice barked at him to drink it whether he liked it or not. General Marcus appeared, pulled him upright, and unceremoniously poured the entire bowl of medicine down his throat. Alex coughed and sputtered as the king and Julian exchanged helpless, weary glances. Once he caught his breath, he asked what kind of poison he'd been hit with. His father cleared his throat and silently stepped back to the king's side. It was Julian who answered. It was an infatuation toxin. Alex instinctively clutched the sheets, his eyes wide. He asked who he was supposed to fall in love with. The person who poisoned him? He demanded to know who it was. He saw a vein throb in his father's temple, and Julian looked profoundly strained. The king merely gave Julian a look of deep sympathy, mixed with what Alex could have sworn was amusement. Julian, his voice tight with irritation, clarified that it was an infatuation toxin, not a love curse. It functioned like a potent aphrodisiac and would cause recurring flare-ups. Alarmed, Alex blurted out a question, asking if Julian could help him like he did the other night. Julian, his face flushing, clamped a hand over Alex's mouth, shouting for him to be quiet. General Marcus looked mortified, staring at the ceiling as if seeking an escape. The king chose that moment to intervene, telling Julian to come with him. As the king walked away, Alex noticed his slightly odd gait and a faint, dark mark on his neck. The king shot a glare at his father before leaving. Alex shouted after them that something wasn't right. His father smacked him on the back of the head, asking when his brain would ever start working properly. Alex rubbed his head, his confusion mounting. Then he remembered the mark on the king's neck. His eyes widened in horrified realization. He looked at his father. His old flame was the king. It suddenly all made sense why the king had given his own son to his father. General Marcus gave him a look that said, "Finally." Later, his father paced the room, instructing Alex to look into the prince's birth mother and find out how many consorts the king had. Alex refused, pointing to his bandaged shoulder as an excuse. His father scoffed, saying he knew Alex better than that. Defeated, Alex climbed out of bed, stretching and complaining that he was getting stiff. He suggested his father just ask the king directly, since they were old lovers. The general flatly refused. A complicated emotion flickered in his eyes. He explained that years ago, the king had written to him about having a son but had never mentioned the mother. No amount of probing had ever yielded an answer. As he spoke, Alex remembered 2 ornate boxes his father kept by his bed, filled with unsent letters. He pointed out that his father only sent 2 or 3 letters a year while hoarding the rest. It was no wonder his lover might have moved on. Then he let slip a comment about his father becoming a national homewrecker. His father's face turned crimson with rage. He lunged for Alex, threatening to throw him to the wolves. Alex dodged, shouting back that he had seen the boxes. He knew one held the king's letters, fewer than 20, while his father had written enough to fill his own box to bursting. His father chased him around the room until Julian entered. Alex, seeing his chance, darted behind the prince for protection. He defiantly peeked out from behind Julian, breathing in his scent. He wasn't coming out. The king's voice from the doorway immediately quelled the general's temper. With a single word, the king could pacify his father in a way no one else could. After they left, Julian had stacks of state documents brought to the bedchamber. Alex sat by, bored as Julian worked. To keep him occupied, Julian presented him with a pile of books. He said he would be right there if Alex wanted to talk instead. Alex sighed. He had never liked reading, but if his partner was the educated crown prince, he couldn't remain an uncultured brute. He chose a pulp novel, deciding to save the serious classics for another day. He quickly grew tired of the cliché plot. Julian patiently set down his quill, suggesting they talk instead. Alex hesitated, glancing at the mountain of paperwork, but then he remembered his father's task. He leaned closer to Julian and asked if he could go for a walk. Julian immediately offered to accompany him. Alex quickly refused, explaining he needed to be alone. He couldn't very well investigate with the prince watching him. He wandered the palace gardens for what felt like hours without seeing a single royal consort. Finally, he spotted a young maid sweeping a path. He hurried over and asked how long she had been at the citadel. Startled, the girl curtsied and replied that it had been 3 years. He then asked if she knew how many consorts the king had. She informed him that His Majesty had never taken one. His father was a lucky man. Alex pressed further, lowering his voice to ask if she knew who the prince's birth mother was. The maid's face went pale with terror. She stammered a greeting to the prince. Alex's heart sank. He turned to see Julian standing a short distance away, his expression unreadable, an unnerving stillness about him. Alex felt a surge of guilt. He coughed, trying to sound casual, and suggested that Julian must have gotten bored and come out for some air too. Julian dismissed the trembling maid with a slight gesture. Alex protested that he wasn't finished questioning her. Julian's gaze was laced with a hint of melancholy. He asked what Alex wanted to know, and why he didn't just ask him directly. He then questioned if Alex preferred the maid. Not wanting to hear another word, Alex threw his father under the bus. He confessed that his father had put him up to it, insisting it was all his idea. Julian's expression softened. He mumbled something about 2 old fools. When Alex asked what he said, Julian explained that the king also wanted to know who Alex's mother was. Alex couldn't understand them. Why not just ask each other? He told Julian that his father had found him in the expanse, just before he was taken by wolves. Julian reached out and gently stroked his hair, saying they should let the old men sort out their own affairs. Alex fell into step behind him, then asked again about Julian's mother. He said he had never met her. Julian replied coolly that she was dead. He was the son of Duke Juan, who was executed for treason. He had been adopted by the king. A thought occurred to Alex. He asked if Julian ever thought about staging his own rebellion. Julian stopped walking and asked why he would think that. Alex, misinterpreting his silence as agreement, clapped him on the shoulder and told him not to feel pressured. He had considered rebellion himself when he thought the king was going to strip his father of his command. A faint smile touched Julian's lips. He said he had never considered it, but he suspected Alex had. Alex's blood ran cold. He swore he hadn't, but Julian said he didn't believe him. Alex grabbed Julian's shoulders, begging him not to tell anyone. He explained that his brain had been addled since his injury, and the words of a fool shouldn't be taken seriously. Julian's demeanor shifted. He asked if Alex had forgotten a lot of things. Alex shook his head, then clarified that he had forgotten everything. Julian looked disappointed for a moment, then hopeful again. Alex admitted he remembered one thing: a friend in the capital he was supposed to meet. Julian's voice was urgent, his usual composure gone. He said, "It was me." Alex stared at him in disbelief. His childhood friend was the crown prince? Julian patiently explained that he had written letters, but Alex had no memory of them. He told Alex how he had snuck out of the citadel for the first time and met him. Alex had saved him from being swept away by a river and had then cheekily demanded that Julian promise to marry him in return. Alex scratched his head, embarrassed, but also proud of his good taste even as a child. He pressed Julian for more. Julian said that not long after, Alex left for the Expanse. Before leaving, Alex had told him he was General Cromwell's son and that Julian could write to him. Julian looked at him with gentle accusation, reminding Alex that he had promised to come back and marry him, but he never wrote back a single time. Eventually, Julian stopped sending letters. Alex was bewildered. He knew nothing of any letters. Then another possibility dawned on him. He grabbed Julian's hand and raced back to the townhouse, making a beeline for his father's room. He found the old footlocker under the bed, certain his father had intercepted his mail. He opened it, but it was filled with his father's own unsent letters. He grumbled that he'd opened the wrong one when a furious roar echoed from the doorway. It was his father. Alex, though caught, stood his ground. He demanded to know if his father had hidden Julian's letters from him. General Marcus's face fell when he saw the scene. He rushed to gather the scattered letters, but it was too late. The king, who had arrived unnoticed, picked one up and began to read aloud, "My dearest Theodore." Alex shuddered, remarking on how sappy his father was. The general shot him a death glare, then pleaded with the king to save the reading for later, in private. The king smiled with a fondness Alex had never seen before, agreeing to settle the score that night. Alex, impatient, demanded his own letters. A mischievous glint appeared in his father's eye. The general explained that while Alex was unconscious after his fall, he had placed the letters by his pillow. Later, in his delirium, Alex had been playing with fire, and the letters had likely burned along with half the tent. He then added that the boy had wet the bed that night for good measure. Alex was mortified, certain his father was making it all up. The general turned to Julian, patting his shoulder sympathetically, explaining how Alex had never been quite right since he'd wandered off and been found delirious in the wilderness. Alex retorted that his father wasn't one to talk, clutching that box of letters to sleep every night like a lovesick fool. His father flushed with rage. Finally, Julian, unable to watch any longer, produced a thick bundle of his own. Alex's eyes widened. There were even more than in his father's box. Julian's long fingers held the letters as he smiled gently. He offered to read them to Alex, who nodded eagerly. Looking at the beautiful man before him, Alex's heart felt light. This was his prince. He was utterly smitten. A familiar heat began to build in his lower abdomen, and he silently cursed his body's timing. As Julian began to read, the toxin flared up. Alex grabbed a nearby pillow, trying to appear calm, and told him to pay it no mind. Julian chuckled, then reached out and touched his forehead. The coolness of his hand was a brief relief. They were so close Alex could see the flecks of gold in Julian's eyes. As Julian slowly removed his outer robes, he asked why Alex was staring. Alex's throat felt tight. He managed to ask if they were going to do what they had done before. Julian, now straddling his lap, whispered yes and no. Alex's hands found their way to Julian's waist, holding him close. Julian's voice was low as he asked if Alex had ever been with anyone before. Lost in the haze of the toxin, Alex answered truthfully that Julian had been his first. Julian's gaze grew even more intense. He leaned in close. "Let me teach you," he whispered, then broke off, correcting himself. "Call me Julian." Alex obeyed. Julian. The name had barely left his lips before Julian's mouth was on his. Afterward, he held Julian in his arms, his hand gently massaging his lower back. He confessed how much he liked him. Julian looked at him knowingly and replied that he could feel it. Alex flushed, explaining that he couldn't control himself. Julian whispered that he didn't need to. He liked him too. From then on, they were inseparable. Rumors flew that the young Cromwell was the prince's pampered favorite. Alex didn't care. He was too busy enjoying the food from the Citadel kitchens, which was far superior to anything he'd eaten in the field. One day, a guard announced a visitor from the Valerian Khanate, an old acquaintance of Alex's. Julian's pleasant expression vanished. There was a long and bloody history between their nations. He couldn't imagine what acquaintance Alex could have there. He reluctantly ordered the man be shown in. A young man in foreign attire strode in. It was Prince Chaka, the third son of the Khan. They had faced each other on the battlefield many times. Chaka walked straight toward Alex, ignoring everyone else, and greeted him familiarly. Alex cut him off, grabbing him and forcing him to his knees. He told him to show respect. He was in the presence of the crown prince. Chaka's demeanor didn't change as he offered a perfunctory greeting to Julian, who didn't even look up from his book. Julian asked his business. Chaka's lips curled into a sneer. He said he had heard the prince had offered himself to General Cromwell's son upon his return, and he had come to see if it was true. Alex retorted that it was, that they ate, slept, and lived together, and that a wedding date was set. He demanded to know what Chaka wanted. Chaka, momentarily flustered, laughed coldly and addressed Julian. He said it was a mistake to cage an eagle. Alex didn't belong here. He belonged on the steppes of Valeria, as Chaka's consort, where he could be free. Alex exploded. He swore at Chaka, asking if he was so miserable he had to drag someone else down with him. He said the first thing he would forget with his new fortune was ever knowing him. The idea of being his consort was laughable. He physically shoved Chaka toward the door, telling him to get out. As he left, the furious prince vowed that Alex would regret this. Alex turned back to find Julian watching him with a dangerously placid smile. A cold dread washed over him. Julian asked sweetly if Alex was sure he had no other romantic entanglements he'd forgotten to mention. Alex rushed to his side, leaning his head on Julian's shoulder. He murmured that he was Julian's dog, loyal only to him. Julian tapped him gently on the head. "That's better," he said. At the formal reception for the foreign envoys, Chaka made his move. He announced that the Khanate of Valeria wished to formally request the hand of Alex Cromwell in marriage to secure a lasting peace. Alex shot to his feet, a vein throbbing in his forehead, but Julian's hand quickly and firmly pushed him back into his seat. Julian's voice was like ice as he addressed Chaka. He reminded the prince that his king was dead and his nation was a broken territory with no power to fight back. A mocking smile touched his lips as he asked what right a glorified hostage had to make demands. Chaka, trembling with rage, pulled a small vial from his tunic. He declared that Alex was afflicted with a deadly poison, and without his antidote, he would surely die. Alex was shocked. Why hadn't Julian told him the poison was so serious? Before anyone could react, Alex snatched the vial from Chaka's hand. The royal physician sniffed its contents and announced to the king that while it was indeed an antidote, it was a crude formulation from a primitive land, far inferior to the one he had already prepared. Chaka's face turned ashen. He pointed a shaking finger at Alex, screaming that he had been tricked. He demanded to know what Julian had that he did not. The silence in the hall was his only answer. After the banquet, Alex hurried after Julian, asking when he had taken the antidote without realizing it. Julian explained it was the first bowl of medicine his father had forced him to drink. Alex was amazed by the speed of the royal physicians. He then blushed, asking why, if he was cured, he still had reactions. Julian stopped and turned, a playful light in his eyes. He pulled Alex close by his belt and whispered that Alex would have to ask his own body that question. Days later, Alex went to find Julian in the royal study. Before he could enter, he heard voices. A minister was arguing that, with the Valerians pacified, it was time to strip General Cromwell and his son of their military command, lest they become a threat to the crown. Another agreed. Then he heard Julian's voice, clear and steady, seconding the motion. Alex's heart plummeted. He turned to leave, but his father was standing right behind him, his face grim. He had heard it too. Alex whispered that they should go, that he hated the capital. His father's hand clamped down on his shoulder. His voice was low and filled with an old weariness. He spoke of the unique heartlessness of kings and princes, but he refused to run. He said he had left in anger once without a word and spent years regretting it. This time, if he had to crawl back to the expanse, he would get his answer first. With that, General Marcus kicked open the study doors. He strode in and knelt before the king, his voice ringing with Beichong resolve. He declared that his life was the king's to command. Alex, his face a mask of cold fury, knelt beside him. He said he had seen the capital's splendor, but it was rife with scheming. He would rather spend his life on the frontier, defending the nation's borders. Julian's expression crumbled. He whispered Alex's name, saying it wasn't what he thought. Suddenly, the king erupted in a rage, sweeping the documents from his desk and hurling an inkwell at the two terrified ministers. He roared at them, accusing them of trying to poison his happiness for their own gain, and ordered them to get out. Once they were gone, the king's fury evaporated, replaced by a deep sorrow. His eyes were red as he pulled the general to his feet, his voice cracking as he begged him not to leave him alone again. Alex watched, stunned by the sight of the king's tears. Julian led him from the room. Once outside, he grabbed Alex's arm, his voice desperate. He asked if Alex had meant what he said, if he had never wanted to stay in the capital. Alex's anger melted at the sight of Julian's distress. He pulled him into an embrace, admitting he had been lying. But he made Julian promise that if he ever came to be seen as a threat, he would tell Alex. Alex swore he would give up his command voluntarily and live the life of a traveler. Julian's voice was pleading. "Don't say that." Alex felt the warmth of tears on his neck. Julian swore he would never let him down. He held him tighter, a silent acknowledgement of the future he now knew they would share.